Hey everybody, welcome to the Columbus Wired post-practice session here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I'm Andy Evans and got this guy along for the ride again, Mr. Drew Sample.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Great session again here today. We got to see a lot of defensive players. We got to see offensive line coach. Another coach too. Who's the other coach?
Tim Walton, cornerbacks coach.
Cornerbacks coach.
Yep.
Another defensive coach. We got Western Kentucky coming up right now. Their quarterback actually had led the league in passing yards last year.
The entire NCAA had the most passing yards of any quarterback in the entire country last year, and that's what they're about to face this weekend in Austin Reed.
So, Andy, any thoughts on the game with new information we got tonight? Anything changed since we last discussed this on Saturday on the podcast?
You know, I mean, it was interesting. We got a chance to hear from Tim Walton, like we said, the cornerbacks coach. We got to hear from Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker. Got to hear from Jordan Hancock, cornerback. We also got to hear from Justin Fry, offensive line coach, as well as Emeka Buka and G. Scott. I will say this. They, I think, are going to face a daunting task in this Western Kentucky offense. Now, I called a 31-10, I think 34-10 win for Ohio State on the Hey Bucks podcast this past Sunday. I may have to kind of alter that now that I've done a little bit more homework, because I was simply just going off of just Ohio State and Western Kentucky, the two names, right? You know, you just hear the names, this is what you think. However, after going back and actually kind of doing a little bit of homework, which I should have done before the Hey Bucks podcast, but I have since done, this Austin Reed, he's for real. Like I just said, led the country last year with over 4,700 yards passing, had 40 touchdown passes, which was tied for third in the country. The one kind of caveat, the one kind of step back for Austin Reed is that he has a tendency to throw a lot of picks. 11 interceptions last year. However, so far after 2 games, 589 yards passing, 67% of his passes complete, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So he's off to a good start so far. But the question is, what are we going to see out of this Ohio State defense? I know they've looked good for the most part, but I even said it on the Hey Bucks podcast, Drew, that I have still some questions about this Ohio State defense. I'm not completely, totally sold on. I think actually the big step for them was seeing some of the defensive back play, the fact that Denzel Burke got an interception, their first interception since 2021 for an actual cornerback. That was a huge step, I think, for this defense. Hopefully something they can build on, and it's going to be something that they're going to need, to confidence-wise, to take into this weekend's game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty much the same as I thought, probably 40-10, 40-something to 17. I think we're still going to see a lot of opportunities. I think they're going to score some points on the Buckeyes. However, I did kind of get some inclination from both Tommy Eichenberg and Jordan that it seems like the defensive scheme is going to actually be more, I heard a lot of, we just got to do our jobs. And it seemed a lot different than, it sounds different than what we've seen the first 2 weeks where we were kind of working it out. I think they're getting hunkered down to really prepare for people to stay on their assignments. Another question I thought was interesting, since Tommy Eichenberg clearly doesn't like talking to the media.
He's never been a huge fan. He's never been a huge fan.
It's because he's a football player.
Yeah.
Was people were asking about the defensive line, and he said, well, they really haven't had an opportunity to get sacks. And that's Indiana ran the triple option. Youngstown State big off designed to run the ball. This team's designed to throw the ball. So we'll see how good a penetration they're going to get. We're probably going to see a lot less blitzes coming from the defensive backfield. Probably more of what I talked about listening, what I wanted to see on the podcast on Saturday, or on Hey Bucks, the last episode of Hey Bucks. Yeah. So I think it's going to stay the same as what I thought it would be. Maybe we don't score 40 points. I'm hoping we do put it together and get to 40 points. Since last week we got to 35. Still, I'm hoping to see more out of our offensive line. Anything that you heard from offensive line coach today change your opinion about the offensive line?
Justin Fry, he said this is a work in progress. And, that's what I've said all along. That's what pretty much all of Buckeye Nation knows, is that this offensive line is just a work in progress. It's going to be interesting defensively if Western Kentucky is able to throw the ball effectively, what's that going to do for Ohio State's offense? And is this going to be a high-powered shootout?
Could be.
You know,
Hopefully.
and with the way that this whole rule clock or this whole rule change as far as the game clock is concerned for the first downs. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, we talked about this.
That is right, yeah. Okay. You were looking at me kind of like with this stymied look on your face, like you didn't know what I was talking
No,
about.
I was thinking about it.
Yes.
Like I was planning it out in my head. We got two potential gunslingers here. Hopefully we see more out of our own quarterback.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see more big plays.
Yes.
Hopefully we can get a stop and score points quickly like we did the previous years. Build momentum early so before teams know it's hit them, they're already down 28 points.
And that's obviously you hope for that every game.
Every
right?
game.
I guess my point is that with the whole new rule change as far as the game clock, with these being two high-powered offenses, I'm not sure that we're going to maybe see a whole lot different offensive line this weekend than we've seen the last couple of weeks. I think we're pretty much going to see the same offensive line. The key is cleaning up the messy plays, cleaning up the penalties on touchdowns, right? Josh Simmons, starting left tackle, he is not off to a great start right now. He's had at least 2 penalties in both games, bringing his penalty total to like 4 already in 2 games. That is not a great start, and your left tackle is supposed to be your best offensive lineman traditionally, right? Because he's the guy that covers the blind side. He's typically, we talked about that too. You know, I get it that your left tackle's not always, but typically the left tackle's supposed to be the strongest. Right now, I'd say Josh Simmons is your weakest link. As long as he can come in and play a solid game, keep his penalties down, and this offense can maintain possession, not make stupid plays. I mean, that's typical of football regardless, right? You know, don't commit penalties. Keep possession of the ball. Maintain, you know.
As long as we play a good game.
Yeah, as long as you play, you know, and you got more points than the other team, then you're typically going to win every time. Seriously, they need to play pretty sound football, and I think this is going to be a great test
I do too.
defensively going up against this kind of offense for Notre Dame. And they got their quarterback, Sam Hartman, who likes to sling the ball as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping to see more out of the offensive line, hoping to see a better strategy defensively than what we've seen the last 2 weeks. But again, they were working things out.
Yeah.
But I think the game's pretty much going to go the same way. I mean, yes, Western Kentucky scores points, but they give up a lot of points too, and largely because they do score so many points. We talked about this also on the show. So I'm staying with where I'm at. I think we get to 40. We give up probably at most 17. I'm thinking at most 17. I'd like to see us keep it below 10. That's a pretty big win if we can keep them below 10 points.
And I said, like I said, 31-10, 34-10. I've done a little bit more homework now in Western Kentucky. I've honestly got kind of my issues with the defense, primarily the defensive line. You just mentioned it. Tommy Eichenberg said, well, they really haven't had a great opportunity because of the offenses that they faced, and that might be true. Okay, well, you guys are going to have your opportunity this weekend. JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, you guys are going to have your opportunity to come off that edge and really put pressure on the quarterback, because that, I think, is going to be the key factor in making Austin Reed make some bad throws and give the defensive backs an opportunity to swallow up a pass or two, hopefully, in this game. However, I do think that this offense, like I said, is going to present a challenge, and I'm actually going to bump up Western Kentucky's score from 10 points. You said 17. I'm even thinking they could possibly score 20. I think 17 sounds like a good number. The only thing about Western Kentucky that gives me confidence that Ohio State can score more points than they did last weekend against FCS Youngstown State is the fact that Western Kentucky, like you said, gave up 24 points to South Florida in the season opener, gave up 22 points to FCS Houston Christian. This is a defense that only came in this year with 4 returning starters. So I think that this offense, Ohio State offense, can have the opportunity to capitalize on making some big plays. I'm going to go with, I said like 31-10. I'm going to go with 41-20.
Okay.
And this Ohio State team is favored by about 27, 28 points. So once again, I'm saying they're not going to cover the spread.
Yeah, I don't think they cover the spread.
But I'm going to go with Ohio State 41, Western Kentucky 20.
Good deal. All right, guys. Well, looking forward to bringing you more content like this. Check out our podcast, Hey Yamos, Hey Bucks. Thanks again, guys.